Good afternoon, dear representatives of the organization committee and participants of the conference. To your kind attention, the results of the research, Peculiarities of Foreign Language Training of Students at the Higher Education Institutions in the Occupied Territories during the War in Ukraine, made by me, Viktoriia Lemeshchenko-Lagoda, and my colleague Iryna Kryvonos, senior teachers of Dmytro Motornyi Tavria State Agrotechnological University. On February 24, a full-scale invasion of Russian Federation on the territory of Ukraine began, which fundamentally changed the lives of Ukrainians, affecting every sphere of human activity without exception. The education system is one of those spheres that felt the negative impact of military action the most. Right now, the total number of damaged or destroyed educational institutions is more than 3,127. Motornyi Tavria State Agrotechnological University was located in the city of Melitopol in the Zaporizhia region that was occupied by Russian troops by the end of February 2022. In the conditions of hostilities and a constant threat to the lives and health of both students and teachers, the university administration made a decision to continue the educational process remotely via distance learning tools. However, new difficulties arose as a result of the occupation of the city, the strengthening of disinformation, Russian propaganda, which manifested itself in numerous technical obstacles that hindered the continuation of the active educational process. On the first days, the Russian troops made attempts to destroy all communication points in order to shut down the internet for the most of the country. Since February 24, all interruptions in the work of the telecommunications infrastructure in the occupied territories were the result of three aspects. The first one, deliberate suppression of radio signals in a limited area during the movement of a significant amount of military equipment and personnel of the Russian armed forces. The second one, damage to main traffic transmission channels during armed confrontation and artillery shelling. The third one, the Russian Federation deliberately turned off mobile communications and the internet for the occupied territories. When some communication channels were damaged as a result of shelling, traffic was redirected through the remaining ones. But this redundancy is not infinite either, especially against the background of the impossibility of carrying out repair work on damaged lines. As a result, those who stayed in the territories temporarily occupied by Russian troops received low-speed internet, and those who lived in remote areas were left without internet connections at all. Therefore, the specifics of distance learning during a military operation influenced the methods of selection and structuring of content. The implementation of certain methods and organizational forms of learning which significantly affected the functioning of the entire education system. The most important criteria for choosing tools for the organization of distance learning was their versatility, productivity, low internet consumption, and methodological correspondence to the set methodical goals. Taking into account all the peculiarities of the situation on the occupied territories and developed criteria, it was clear that the students could be limited in using some tools, such as Zoom conferences and the educational portal Moodle system. Instead, we could offer them to use emails, social networking, instant messaging services, mobile application, etc. At the beginning of the research, the accessibility to mentioned tools was analyzed. According to the students' academic achievements at the end of the first term and personal teachers' observations of their usage, it was taken as granted that all students had access to all mentioned tools in the first term. The analysis of the accessibility to the education tools in the second term was conducted via students' viewing and personal teachers' observations and are shown right now on the slide. At the same time, it was observed that some students had access to more than one tool or didn't have any at all. This limited access to the educational tools and therefore resources had an impact on the students' achievements at the end of the second term. The data presented right now in the slide indicate a significant decline in student academic achievements in the second term. The number of students who, according to the results of the first term, had the A grades, 17 students, B, 28 students, and C, 37 students, had decreased to 12, 20, and 32 respectively, while the number of students who had the D, E grades, 19 students each, had increased 27 and 20 respectively. Moreover, some students did not have any possibility to attend online lessons or use any other educational tools and gained grades lower than 60 points. To determine the real reasons for the drop in academic performance, technological, psychological, personal ones, etc., we developed a questionnaire presented right now on the slide and conducted an additional survey among the students. The questionnaire consisted of two parts. The first one, obligatory, had several statements that had to be graded from 0 to 5 points regarding the relevance of each. And the second part, optional one, was for specifying the reasons that were not included in the questionnaire. And right now you can see the results of this survey on the slide. As you can see, among the most common technological issues there were internet connection problems, poor or absent mobile connection, the absence of the sufficient technical equipment, as electricity problems, or its absence at all. The students have highlighted only one educational issue, missing the lesson and therefore absence of clear understanding of the topic. Among the surveyed students, such psychological issues were pointed out as the increased level of stress, anxiety, depression, impaired concentration of attention, memory, logic, and speed of thinking, uncertainty of the future, and lack of control over the situation. In the questionnaire, students also specified various personal issues, but the common were the necessity to hide for long periods of time in the bomb shelters or cellars, active hostilities that are taking place near the place of living, forced immigration abroad, and problems connected with it. More than 80% of students experienced a mix of the problems, and at the same time, nearly 47% stressed that study helped them to distract from what was happening around and feel some kind of relief and even relaxation. Around 10% of the students did not fill in the questionnaire. They got in touch only once or twice or asked their fellow students to tell teachers that they didn't have the opportunity to attend classes and study the material because of the problems that were listed above. The obtained results indicated the need to provide further recommendations to the students regarding the improvement of their knowledge and skills of foreign language, improving the level of their academic achievements and maintaining the psychological state. Therefore, students were offered a list of resources which can be useful in each individual case. There are textbooks, online sources, etc. Also, they were advised to adaptate their resources or just as a format if the internet was very weak for them. They were given some psychological recommendation on how to tackle stress or depression, and also many on alternative ways to connect to the internet. Moreover, students had the opportunity to find support online via consultation with their teachers or psychologists, and were visited in their hostels when it was possible. To sum it all up, we want to say that the war in Ukraine definitely brought a lot of challenges and forced adjustments to the educational process, having revealed that the well-configured system of distance learning was not appropriate enough in such circumstances and needed fast changes. The situation was even more complicated on the occupied territories where the university was located. The existing distant methods and tools of foreign language teaching which were used before the start of hostilities appeared to be partly applicable because of the absence of the internet, mobile network, constant shellings, etc. At the same time, it was observed that some students had access to more than one tool while others didn't have it at all. Among students who took part in survey, only 1/4 could use Zoom and 1/3 of them Moodle. The social networks were accessible for most of the students and were used as one of the main tools at that period of time. Limited access to the educational tools and therefore resources had an impact on students' achievements at the end of the second term, and the reasons for the drop in academic performance were determined also. The prospects for future research includes a search for new learning methods, tools, techniques, resources, etc., especially in foreign language teaching. For both students who left occupied regions and those who stayed there, selection of technologies that can be used when the internet signal is weak and development of new programs of foreign language teaching to improve the educational process are one of the main prospects for future research. Thank you very much for your attention.